Hello, everyone. Tonight, we're going to talk about something quiet. Something that starts with a sigh on the couch after a long day and ends with you staring at a bank app while she sleeps beside you, peacefully unaware that your chest feels like a locked drawer with a key no one wants to hold. The apartment was her idea. Third floor walk-up, sunlight in the morning, and just enough space for a bookshelf we'd never finish filling. You remember how her eyes glowed during the tour, like she already lived there in her mind. You were still doing the math in yours. Rent was $2,600. She said, "We'll figure it out." You nodded, even though she didn't say split. She said figure. She was in between jobs, freelance graphic design, sometimes art commissions, sometimes social media branding. She'd have good weeks, but no consistent paychecks. You were salaried, finance, predictable, boring, stable. That word used to feel like armor. Now it's a curse. She moved in with 2 suitcases and no pots. You brought a couch, a mattress, and the willingness to say, "Don't worry about it," every time a bill came due. The first rent came fast. She Venmo'd you $300 and smiled like it was enough. You said nothing. You told yourself it was temporary. You remembered her telling you once how her last boyfriend had insisted she pay half the rent, even though she was a student. He didn't understand the difference between ability and willingness, she said. You wanted to understand, so you covered the rest. That became the rhythm. Rent, electricity, internet, groceries. You called it teamwork. She called it us. But in the back of your mind, a quiet resentment started tapping, like water dripping behind a wall. And still, you told yourself, love isn't a spreadsheet. Love doesn't demand receipts. Then came the day you found a receipt. $308. Designer sneakers, a brand you couldn't pronounce. You saw the bag on the counter, the packaging still perfect. You looked at her, curled up on the couch, scrolling on her phone. She didn't look up. You thought about saying something. You didn't. You just stared at the bag and tried to calculate how many bags of rice that would have bought. 13 bags of jasmine rice, each lasting nearly a month. You laughed softly to yourself. That night, she asked if you wanted to order sushi. You ordered pizza instead. She pouted. The next morning, she asked why you didn't seem as warm. You said, "I'm tired." She kissed your shoulder and said, "Don't work too hard." You stared at the sneakers by the door. It's not about the money, you reminded yourself. That's what people say, right before it becomes about the money. In 17th century England, when women married, their property automatically transferred to their husbands. The legal term was coverture. The woman was legally covered by the man. She had no separate existence in financial matters. People thought that was love too. Centuries later, here you are, covering again, quietly, like a coat she doesn't know she's wearing. She makes jokes when the rent reminder pops up on your phone. "Ugh, adulthood," she says. You smile. Yep, but it's not adulthood that bothers you. It's the asymmetry. You remember something you read once in a psychology journal. Perceived fairness in romantic financial arrangements is more predictive of long-term satisfaction than actual amounts contributed. It stuck with you. Perceived fairness. You don't feel it. Not anymore. Her quirkiest habit, financially, She'll drive across town to buy a $7 latte from a cute local place, but leave her wallet behind. Every time, she'll laugh and say, "Oops," then snap a picture for her Instagram. @LataQueen. You start tracking it. 13 times in the past 2 months. You don't tell her. You start tracking other things too. The split between what she gives and what you give. 13 messages where she asked for money just for now. 13 nights you went to bed silently, pressing your fingertips against your temple as if you could press the thoughts away. Sometimes she calls you Mr. Spreadsheet with a little giggle. You pretend to smile. You wonder if you're being too rigid, too masculine, in the worst sense of the word. Shouldn't a man want to provide? Isn't that romantic? But you remember your parents arguing when you were 12. Your mom yelling, "I'm not an expense on your ledger, Robert." You were hiding behind the hallway wall, holding your breath. You wonder if your partner knows she's repeating a script older than both of you. You wonder if you're becoming Robert. The night you almost said something, really said something, was when she joked about marrying up. You were watching a reality show. The couple on screen was fighting over money. She looked at you and said, "Well, at least I picked someone who's stable." She said picked, like she was picking fruit at a market, like you were ripe. You smiled. You always smile. But inside, something snapped. Not loud, just a small, dry crack. And still, you said nothing. Because maybe you are Mr. Spreadsheet. Maybe you do need control. Maybe love isn't meant to be fair. Maybe fairness is just another disguise for fear. Fear of being used. Fear of being invisible unless you're providing. But late at night, when her breathing slows beside you and the room fills with that soft white fan noise you've both come to rely on, you stare at the ceiling and whisper to yourself, "Is this what love is? Or is this just expensive silence?" It always starts with something small. She asks if you can swing by the store after work. "Just grab a few things," she texts. "You're closer anyway." The list is short, casual. Almond milk, avocados, that oat-based ice cream she loves. You send back a thumbs up. You don't think much of it until you check the receipt. $63.89. You stare at the number for a long time, longer than you should. It's not that you can't afford it. It's that it happens every time. She never offers to pay you back. Not once. Not even the polite, "Do you want me to Venmo you?" that people say, even when they know the answer will be no. You begin to wonder, does she think the fridge stocks itself? You try to remember the last time she bought groceries. 3 weeks ago? No, a month. You remember because she texted you a picture of the receipt with a crying emoji. "Everything's getting so expensive, WTF." You sent back a heart. She never brought it up again. One night, she opens the freezer and says, "Ugh, we're out of the good frozen pizza." You want to say, "You mean the one I buy?" But you don't. You say, "I'll pick some up." You always pick things up. There's something absurdly beautiful about how she lives. She lights candles for no reason. She buys tiny gold spoons for eating yogurt. She insists on calling your living room a lounge. These quirks once felt charming. Now they feel curated, like she's performing the life she wants while you work backstage, unpaid. You catch yourself keeping count again. 13 times she sent you a TikTok of something she wants. "Look at this couch. These chairs would be so cute. This rug, OMG." Always with a heart emoji. Always ending up in your saved folder, not hers. Your therapist once said, people show you their values through repeated behavior. You think about that as you watch her giggle over a $25 crystal-infused water bottle she ordered just to try. History echoes in strange places. In ancient Rome, dowries weren't just cultural customs. They were transactions. A woman's family paid a man to marry her. But if the woman was divorced or abandoned, the man could keep the money. Marriage was not about love. It was about assets. Sometimes, when she brushes her hair in the mirror, slow, methodical, like a scene from an old film, you think about that. You wonder, if I stop paying for everything, would the romance unravel? The first time you tried to talk about money, you didn't even mean to. It slipped out between bites of takeout. "Hey," you said casually, "do you think we should track shared expenses?" She blinked. "What do you mean? Just groceries, utilities, stuff we both use?" She smiled. "Oh, babe, don't be weird about money." "Weird?" You swallowed your response with a mouthful of noodles. That night, while brushing your teeth, you realized something chilling. Every time you try to discuss finances, she makes you feel uncool. Like being responsible is unattractive. Like fairness is awkward. Like you're the guy at the party checking who drank how many beers. But you are that guy. You feel it every time you tap your card and she pretends not to notice. There's something about the way she talks about rich people. "I just feel like they get it, you know," she'll say. Watching some influencer unpack a $3,000 handbag, she calls it aspirational. You call it delusional, silently. You wonder if you're her stepping stone, if loving you is her way of inching closer to the life she thinks she deserves. You remember reading about financial infidelity. The term came up in a behavioral economics article. It's the act of hiding financial decisions or habits from a partner, creating a secret economy within the relationship. You realize it doesn't always mean lying. Sometimes it means assuming the other person will always cover you, and you're starting to feel like an unpaid intern in your own home. One evening, after another grocery run, you place the bags on the counter. She walks over, sees what you bought, and frowns. "You didn't get the oat milk I like." You look at her. They didn't have it. She sighs, then grabs a LaCroix from the fridge. "You could have gone to the organic place. It's $7.89 in the bottle there." "You don't say that." You just nod. Next time. That night, you lie awake, counting ceiling tiles. Not sheep. Not blessings. Tiles. 18. Like dollars. Like receipts. The hums like it's trying to shush your thoughts. You close your eyes, but your mind opens spreadsheets. You remember her telling you once, during a walk, that her dad used to cover everything growing up. "My mom never worried about money. She just existed. It looked so peaceful." You nodded back then. It sounded sweet. Now it sounds like a blueprint. You wonder if she even notices what this is doing to you. The invisible heaviness. The slow suffocation. You don't want to be resented for bringing it up. You don't want to be feared for needing balance. But you also don't want to become a wallet with a heartbeat. You've started deleting your banking app notifications. The pings feel like alarms now. Reminders that you're alone in this math problem. One Saturday, you leave your wallet at home on purpose, just to see. You're at brunch. She orders the $19 avocado toast. You ask for black coffee. The bill comes. She reaches for her phone, then pauses. "Oh, do you have your card?" You smile. "Nope, you got this." She stares, blinks, then forces a laugh. "Guess I'll transfer from savings." It's silent on the drive home. Not angry, just muffled. Like the quiet between two people who suddenly feel the shape of the space between them. That night, she brings it up. Are you mad about something? You shake your head. Just tired. She nods. Okay. But she doesn't lean into you, doesn't touch your arm, just turns off the lamp. You lie there in the dark, listening to her breathing, and somewhere between one breath and the next, you realize you're no longer carrying a partner. You're carrying the performance of one. It happens one morning like a slipped step. You're standing at the sink, brushing your teeth, watching her through the mirror. She's putting on mascara with that little tilt of the chin she always does when she wants the light to catch her just right. She's humming, softly, the same song she always hums when she's happy, something wordless and slow. You don't feel happy. You feel like a machine. Rinse, spit, tap the toothbrush, stare. She turns to you, still holding the wand, and says, "By the way, I was thinking, maybe we could look at getting a bigger place next year." You blink. Bigger? Yeah, I saw one online. It has a balcony. You keep staring. Do you think we can afford that? She frowns. We? You make plenty. Don't be stingy. There it is. Stingy. You nod. Slow. Walk past her. You don't even argue. Later that day, at work, you open a new spreadsheet. Not for budgeting, for tracking. You list every expense you've covered in the last 6 months. Rent, utilities, groceries, little things like Uber rides when she wanted to sleep in a bit more. It totals over $17,000. You stare at the number until it becomes abstract. $17,000 isn't just money. It's choices. Your choices. It's how many times you said yes when you could have said, "Let's talk." You start to feel like a donation box she forgot to label. That night, she shows you a new pair of boots she bought. Lavender suede, lace to the ankle. "Aren't they amazing?" she beams. You nod. "How much were they?" She shrugs. "They were on sale." You wait. She doesn't answer the question. It reminds you of the tulip mania in 17th century Netherlands, when the price of a single tulip bulb once equaled the cost of a house. People bought them not because they needed them, but because everyone else did. Value became illusion. Emotion drove investment. And eventually, everything collapsed. You wonder if love can bubble the same way. If feelings, unchecked, inflate into expectation. If emotional tulips are growing all around you, and you just never stop to smell them, you start noticing patterns. She never refills the gas tank. Even when she borrows your car, she'll use your credit card just this once if hers is low, then forget to pay you back. She insists on splitting dinner with friends, but never with you. Because, she says, it's different when it's us. You bring it up once, softly. "I feel like I've been covering a lot." She looks up from her phone. "Well, you have more. Isn't that what people in love do? Share?" You almost say, sharing is mutual, but your throat tightens, so you nod again. You go for a walk alone that evening. The city's cold, but not biting. You like the quiet. You pass a man playing cello by the subway entrance. His case open with only a few bills inside. You toss in a $5. He nods. You nod back. At least he asks. When you get home, she's on the couch watching a reality show. Some couple in Bali arguing over finances. She laughs. Can you imagine being that petty? You sit beside her, but your mind's elsewhere. You're thinking about the medieval concept of the bride price, when men had to pay a family for the right to marry their daughter. A literal transaction. A woman was not just love, but value. acquired. Sometimes, it feels like you're still paying yours. The next day, you overhear her on the phone with a friend. No, he's not cheap. Just, particular. He's a finance out guy. They count everything. You hear the smile in her voice, and something inside you folds. You remember a line from a behavioral psych lecture. When one partner becomes the primary financial provider, the imbalance can either deepen love through gratitude or corrode it through quiet entitlement. You didn't know which one you were getting into until now. The following weekend, she asks if you can help her with her taxes. You say yes. You're scrolling through her bank statements when you notice the transfers. Zelle, Cash App, Venmo. Not to you, to friends, to strangers. A makeup artist, a crystal workshop, a dog-sitting service you've never heard of. Even a $150 transfer to someone labeled tarot reading. You look up. Do you send money to a lot of people? She shrugs. Sometimes. It's my money. You nod, slowly. But a voice inside you whispers, it's always her money when it's spending. It's always your money when it's bills. You close the laptop. She notices the shift. That night, you barely speak. She tries to cuddle. You stay stiff. She whispers, I don't like this vibe. You say nothing. She pulls away. Are you mad? You stare at the ceiling. No, but you are, because she doesn't understand. Not the $7 coffees. Not the rent. Not the way it feels to carry someone who never asks if you're okay with carrying them. And you realize this isn't about the rent anymore. It's about value. Not just monetary. Emotional. Reciprocal. She's never asked how you feel about all of this. She just assumed that your salary was permission. She kisses your shoulder, murmurs, don't be cold, then turns away. You whisper, I'm tired. She says, of what? And you say nothing, because if you say it all, the silence between you might never end. It's strange how resentment grows in silence, like mold behind a perfectly painted wall. You wake up next to her, just like always. She's curled toward you, hand on your chest, breathing. The apartment is quiet. The sheets smell like her hair oil, lavender and something sweet. You don't move, not because you're content, but because you're trying to remember how this started. There was a time when money wasn't a topic. You paid for dinner, she kissed you longer. You brought her flowers. She laughed like someone who still believed in magic. Back then, it felt generous. Now it feels extracted. The day moves slowly. She wants to go to the farmer's market. We need lemons and fresh basil, she says, twirling the car keys on her finger like a child playing house. You go. You watch her hold tomatoes like gemstones. She asks the vendor about heirloom sourcing. Says things like, aesthetics matter to taste. The tomatoes cost 13 euros. You pay. Later, while she sips an iced matcha, she asks, do you think I'm spoiled? You blink. It's a strange question. Quiet. Sharp. You shrug. Do you? She smiles. I like nice things. You nod. Do you like paying for them? She pauses, looks at her drink. No one likes paying, and there it is again. That smooth evasion. That soft entitlement. You think, she wants to live in a museum, but never be the curator. You think of a story you once read in college. In 19th century France, women in arranged marriages often brought trousseaux, linen, silverware, small luxuries that proved her worth to her new home. It wasn't just tradition, it was reassurance. I come with something. I won't be a burden. You don't want a dowry. but you do want something. Not gifts, not reimbursement, just awareness. The kind that says, you see what I do for you, you're grateful, but you don't see it in her eyes. That night, she falls asleep while watching a show. You take her phone gently from her hand to plug it in. It lights up. A notification from her friend flashes. "Oh, he pays for everything. You're lucky, LOL." You freeze. Not because she said it, but because she didn't defend you. Not even a "he doesn't have to." Not a "we talk about it." Just silence. The kind of silence that permits misunderstanding. You put her phone down, slower than usual. The screen fades. Darkness returns. You sit there in the dim blue light, your breath low. The room feels heavy, like a ledger growing fuller with every unspoken thing. The next day, you buy a book, The Psychology of Financial Boundaries. You read it in secret. One line stays with you. Love without limits invites dependency, not devotion. You reread it 3 times. At work, you can't concentrate. You scroll through old texts between you two. You search the word money, only a few results. Most of them are jokes. One is a meme she sent. "My love language is you paying my bills." You had laughed then. Now you don't. You type out a message to her, then delete it. You open your budgeting app. Create a new category. Shared costs. It's empty. You close it. That evening, she wants to talk about her birthday. "I was thinking a trip," she says. "Somewhere warm, just us, maybe Tulum." You smile softly. "Who's paying?" She looks up, startled. "What?" You repeat it gently. "Who's paying?" She laughs. "You are." You nod. "Why?" She blinks. "Babe, because you can." She says it like a compliment. Like privilege is a gift you're supposed to wrap around her shoulders. You whisper, "What if I said I didn't want to?" The room stills. She sets down her water. "Is this about groceries again?" "No," you say. "It's about feeling alone in a shared space." She furrows her brow. "But I'm with you." You whisper, "Not where it counts." She stares. For the first time, really stares. "I didn't know you felt this way." You nod. That's the problem. You sit in the silence. Let it stretch. She asks, "Do you want me to start paying half the rent?" You don't answer right away, because the truth is, it's not about half. It's about her never offering until now. You say, finally, "I want us to talk about what's fair, together, not what's easy for one of us." She nods slowly. Then she says something that makes you flinch. "I just thought love didn't keep receipts." You nod. It doesn't, but I'm not asking for receipts. I'm asking for awareness. The conversation ends there, not in anger, but in the kind of quiet that comes when the wall has cracked, but not yet fallen. That night, you lie in bed, replaying it all. Her tone, her surprise, the small way her voice trembled when she said, "I didn't know." You think about Benjamin Franklin's letter to a friend, warning against keeping mistresses. "They cost more than wives," he wrote, "because their love is rented, not shared." You wonder if you've been a landlord of comfort, and she, a tenant of your kindness, not maliciously, just blindly. You close your eyes. Try to imagine what fairness would feel like. Not just in numbers, in warmth, in effort, in silence that doesn't feel like weight. The shift doesn't happen in an explosion. It comes in small, almost invisible ways, like pennies dropped into a jar, one after the other, too quietly to notice until the sound changes. You come home one evening to find her waiting at the kitchen counter holding an envelope. It's handwritten, your name on the front, in her looping script. You open it slowly. Inside is a check. Not much, $500. Folded into a sheet of paper with the words, "For groceries, I want to help." Your breath catches, not because of the money, because It's the first time she's acknowledged the scale of your giving. She's watching you carefully, like you might break. You don't say anything right away. Just walk over and wrap your arms around her. She tenses slightly, then relaxes. That night, you cook together. Something simple. Pasta with fresh basil. The one she made you buy at the market. You let her lead, even though she's clumsy with the timing. The water boils too long. The garlic burns a little. You don't care. You sit together on the floor with your plates, backs against the couch, bare feet brushing. She says, "I'm sorry if I made you feel used." You look at her. "I didn't feel used." A pause. "I felt invisible." She doesn't cry, but her face changes, like a painting that's been seen in a different light. You think back to a strange little article you once read about the ancient Inca economy. No money exchanged hands. Value was built through labor and trust. The more you gave to the community, the more they remembered you. Generosity was currency, and memory was the vault. You wonder how much of you she remembered before the envelope. The next week, she starts taking initiative. She offers to cover the electric bill. It's small, but it feels big. She Venmos you $83 for her half of a Target run. You don't ask. She just does it. You begin to breathe differently. Then one evening, while folding laundry, she says, "I've been thinking about getting a second job. Just part-time. Freelance." You raise your eyebrows. "Really?" She nods. "I want to contribute more." And again, it's not the income. It's the intention. You smile. "That means a lot." She reaches across the laundry basket and touches your cheek. "I didn't see it before. How much pressure you were under." You think of a theory from relationship psychology, equity theory. It says people don't need equality, but they do need fairness. If one partner starts feeling over-benefited, guilt grows. If one feels under-benefited, resentment builds. Either way, the balance cracks. You realize something then. You hadn't just felt drained. You had started to feel less loved. Not because she didn't say it, but because love without effort feels like a balloon with no string. Floating, pretty, unreachable. But now there's a string in your hand. That weekend, she surprises you. You wake up to the smell of coffee. She's in the kitchen, hair messy, wearing your hoodie. "I made breakfast," she says. "And don't get mad. I signed us up for a couples finance workshop." You almost laugh. Instead, you kiss her on the forehead and whisper, "Thank you." It's a strange feeling. Being seen. Not just as a provider, but as a person. Later, at the workshop, you sit in a room full of other couples. Some older, some younger. All of them here to do the hard work of understanding money. The facilitator says, money is never just about money. It's about power, about values, about history. You both nod. You learn that one couple uses color-coded spreadsheets. Another does weekly check-ins. One woman says she gives her partner $50 every Friday with no strings attached. That way, she says, he always feels cared for. Your partner squeezes your hand. Afterwards, she turns to you in the car and says, "I want us to be like that." The couple who checks in. You nod. So do I. There's still tension. Of course there is. She still loves nice things. She still sends her friends links to expensive jackets and sometimes asks, "Do you think I could pull this off?" But now, she adds, "Maybe after my next freelance gig." You still make more. But now, she makes effort. And sometimes, that's all anyone really needs. One night, after paying rent, she comes up behind you and wraps her arms around your waist. She whispers, "Thank you for carrying us for so long." And for the first time, the word us doesn't sting. It feels like home. You remember something from your childhood. Your mother once said, "The way people spend money is the way they spend love." Back then, you didn't understand. Now you do. Because love, like money, is about what you're willing to give without asking, and what you're willing to discuss when giving starts to hurt. And somewhere between her $13 tomatoes and your 13 spreadsheets, you both learned how to stop pretending it didn't matter. Because it did. Because it always will. It's been 13 days since the workshop. You start counting without realizing it. Not because you're unsure, but because you're watching something shift. Like a tide pulling away from the shore, slow and sure, leaving behind only the shells that matter. Tonight, you're both quiet. You sit at the table, bills spread out, her laptop open. She's built a spreadsheet. It's color-coded, imperfectly, endearingly. Light pink for her expenses, dark green for yours. One shared column in blue. It's not elegant, but it's earnest. She's humming some old R&B song, the one that used to play the first month you lived together, back when the apartment smelled like fresh paint and unopened ambition. You glance at her. She catches your eye, smiles. You whisper, "So, are we a team now?" She nods. "We're learning." Outside, the streetlight flickers. You think about the first time you fought over rent. How you kept the lights dim that night. How she lit a candle as if fire could disguise tension. You remember her saying, "Why does it have to be about numbers?" You remember wanting to scream, "Because the numbers are what I cry about when you're asleep." But now, the numbers are here between you both. Real. Shared. You exhale. It's not perfect. She still sometimes forgets to log her part of the grocery tab. You still sometimes hesitate before suggesting a cheaper restaurant, but you talk now, openly, quietly. The quirky thing is, she's started leaving sticky notes with affirmations on the mirror. Today's reads, "Generosity without fear. Love without tally marks." You read it while brushing your teeth and almost laughed. Not because it's funny, but because she finally understands that love and money were never separate currencies, that both spend better when spent together. You turn off the spreadsheet, pour 2 glasses of wine. You sit on the couch together, her legs over yours. She says, "Do you ever regret carrying it all for so long?" You pause, look at her, then say softly, "Not if it brought us here." She leans her head on your shoulder, and in that moment, you both feel it. The air has changed. It's not about splitting rent anymore. It's about splitting the weight. At night, you lie in bed. Lights off, fan humming low. You think about the history of shared living. How in medieval Europe, couples signed marriage contracts outlining what each would bring. Goats, wool, bread, dowry. Not for legality, for peace, for clarity. Even then, they knew, you cannot build a life together on unspoken expectations. Even love needs a ledger sometimes. You whisper, more to yourself than her, "We're getting there." She stirs in her sleep, reaches for you, doesn't open her eyes. And just like that, the silence between you is no longer cold. It's comfort. And now, let's slow everything down. Let the numbers fade. Let the voices soften. Just feel the quiet. You don't need to fight anymore. Not over rent. Not over who gave more. Or who noticed less. Because sometimes, healing isn't loud. It's not the grand apology. It's the small choice. The check on the counter. The spreadsheet with her pink columns. The note on the mirror that said, "Love without tally marks." You start to see her again, not as a dependent, not as a debtor, but as a partner, one who's learning. And you? You're learning too. Learning that asking for help doesn't make your love transactional. It makes it livable, sustainable, fair, because generosity is only beautiful when it doesn't hurt to keep giving. And fairness isn't about splitting everything in half. It's about building something whole, together. So tonight, I want you to let this story settle in you. Breathe deeper, think slower, and ask yourself gently, are you carrying too much alone? And if so, are you ready to say it? Because maybe, just maybe, love is not a math problem, but it does need a budget, one made not with numbers, but with honesty, softness, and the quiet courage to say, I want to feel equal here. I want to feel safe. I want to feel seen. So turn off the lights. Let the fan hum. Let your heart whisper. And sleep knowing that fairness is a kind of love too.